the question would be, where's Italy? And Italy hasn't made the last 2 World Cups, if you can believe that. My brothers in Italy haven't made the last 2 World Cups, which is a big problem over in Italy. But I think you'd have a lot of people who would look at France and say, okay, France, jump in. Where's Ireland? No Ireland. Okay, I guess you go with England, right? You go with the 7-1 with the English. There's a lot of education that has to be done here in a very short period of time around this event. The professionals are going to be unloading on the World Cup, and the casuals will be betting on Team USA. My question is going to be, like, when there's Mexico playing tomorrow, what happens? What happens when it's not involving Mexico or the USA or somebody else of a regional bias, right? What happens when South Korea is playing Chechnya? Like, what's the handle on this game in America? Is it going to be huge? Are we going to see 3 or 4 massive whales come in and bet heavy, and yet the average casual person won't be getting involved with this market all that much? Team USA being a long shot gives everyone who is wanting to go Team USA a chance to bet at 70-1 odds on Team USA to win the World Cup. And is that a donation? In my opinion, yes, it's a donation. But you want to be patriotic, you want to take your $10 and throw it on Team USA, go ahead. Go ahead. I think people are going to be looking at this whole thing and going, okay, the World Cup starts tomorrow. It's going to dominate the summer. It's going to dominate most of June. As soon as the NBA Finals and the NHL Stanley Cup are over, which is probably going to be in the next week, as soon as it's over, we're going to see a massive amount of attention be placed on the World Cup. And so when you have Team USA playing on Friday and opening up, every time they play, it'll be huge, a monster story. I just don't know about our overall interest in the other games. And then once Team USA loses, what's going to be the overall interest? I'll watch just about anything. I love competition. So if there's a competitive game, if there's something fun that's going to be out there to watch, to bet on, to be a part of it, I'm in. I don't care what the sport is. As long as I understand the sport. I don't get cricket. I'm sorry. If you like cricket, great. I don't get it. I don't understand the sport of cricket. I don't get how you score. I don't get the point of it. So cricket and me don't get along. But I'll watch curling. If you throw up an odds on curling, I might bet on curling once in a while in the Olympics. I'll watch the biathlon. As long as I understand the sport and I get some level of understanding on the rules, I'm in. I'll watch volleyball. I'll watch all sorts of different things and bet on all sorts of different things. So I'm in for the World Cup. Don't get me wrong. I'm in. I want to watch it. I want to see how it all plays out. I think it's going to be awesome. And I'm glad that it starts tomorrow. It's here. I just don't know about the average person who has, a wife, a husband, 2 kids, a ton of things going on the weekend. Are we stopping everything and going, oh, hold on a second. South Korea is playing Chechnya. Let's watch this. Where we know across the globe, I put the numbers up, but it tells you that that's what's going to happen in the UK. When there's a World Cup game is on, 61% of the population of the UK pay attention to soccer. 48% of the online adults that were asked who watch soccer are going to watch the World Cup. That's a huge number in the UK who are going to stop everything because it's a World Cup game. It doesn't matter who's playing. So that's my question for how we see the numbers in America. Because if you had an Olympic basketball tournament game and Team USA wasn't playing, but you had a bunch of professionals playing that we recognize, playing for whomever, their home countries, right? I'd watch. I'd make it a point to be there. I'd make it a point to be a part of it and to watch it. So I think that's going to be the interesting question on this. Cole says that I got to do what? I need to get into rugby. Wow. Okay. I mean, I know the rules of rugby, but I can't tell you what the betting market would be for rugby. I know who can tell us, though. We'll find out where in the world our friend is, because his Super Bowl, we'll call it that, starts tomorrow. Where in the world is our guy Adam Bjorn joining us once again here on Pushing the Odds? What's up, my friend? Do I need to bet rugby? Is that something I should be betting?
Well, let's put it this way. For the Americans, rugby is a hell of a lot easier bet than it is the soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, because you use the same shape ball.
Yeah.
You go end to end. You have
Yeah.
goalposts standing up the end as well. Rugby is kind of, a continuous NFL scrummage game. But yeah, coming to the US, I believe 2027, the Rugby World Cup. For me, I am in sunny Fort Lauderdale at the SBC Americas, passing through for the day. And then tomorrow I will be in Costa Rica. I have 5 kids' birthdays in the next 3 months. So number 1 is tomorrow. And then obviously 2 World Cup games, and I'll be on the ground on deck before the first one starts.
It's really funny because Saturday morning I'm flying to Fort Lauderdale and I didn't realize that SPC is there. So if I had known, I may have been there. I may have tried to figure out a way to get there at the end of the convention. I just didn't realize that SPC was there. Is it fun? Is it worthwhile? Or is it just a typical boring convention?
This might be one of the most boring ones that I've walked into at the beginning of it. And madness. I mean, in the, Florida summer, the day before the World Cup, and then day 2 of the conference will be on day 1 of the World Cup. Absolute madness. It was just, I was in Jamaica, I was going to Costa Rica, and I figured, what the hell, I can pass through, find some people to have a drink with, and, be Costa Rica for tomorrow morning for, again, number 2 child's birthday and the first day of the World Cup.
Very cool. We're here, right? We're at the World Cup. So I put this market up already, but Spain's the odds-on favorite. France coming in. These are our Betcris Arizona odds. Spain 420. France is basically 5-1. England 7-1. Portugal 8-1. Are we seeing heavy action? What's the story right now behind the counter for you guys with the World Cup?
Yeah, France and Spain are heavily getting bet. There's no surprise there. England's seeing some action. The 2 teams that aren't seeing action, which it's oddly enough, we did some picks on prime suspects last week, and I obviously wasn't listening to Joe's, and I picked some random thing like Japan and Argentina or something crazy just pulled out of the box. Then I went and did some work and started to look at the odds and was looking at 2 teams that were, they were the teams 20 years ago where you couldn't get more than 3.5 to 1 on Brazil or maybe 6 to 1 on Germany. And I got on prime suspects yesterday and I said, I'm changing my picks. I'm going Brazil versus Germany. And Joe goes, that's what I picked last week. And I'm like, well, you've picked them out of a hat. I actually studied and went and did some work. And these are 2 teams that should be in the mix and are just bigger odds than they've ever been in my lifetime. So those are sort of the ones that, and at those prices, the 9.5, 10 to 1 Brazil, 15 Germany's. Now, I've taken some flyers on some big prices and things like that. But this will be interesting. I'm very anti-favorites in this. I think looking at it, England have got multiple hot day games, so they got to get through it. If they win their group, they go to Mexico to play round of 32 or 16, which is a tough game. So I think this is actually going to bring up a lot of surprises and a lot of unusual results, just with the way that European teams travel poorly, the heat. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a warm summer, and there's games in, Texas, Florida, Georgia. So I think it's going to be really a rate of attrition with some of these teams.
Okay, so you made PTO news when you, after coming on the show and saying the Americans were going to get their asses handed to them, and that you were going for Team Mexico, and that Mexico had a real shot to win the World Cup, but Team USA had no chance. You then changed your tune and said, well, hold on a second. Watch PTO because I may change my tune when it comes to the Americans. 2-part question. 1, how did you get to that thought? And 2, are you changing your tune when it comes to America's chances?
I am changing my tune. I just dug into it a bit deeper, and the way that this all plays out and the teams that they match, and watching them against Germany and the few warm-up games that they've had, I think there's a real opportunity where a lot of the European teams are going to struggle. I think some of the African teams, again, are outperform the expectations. Mexico definitely has a run of those home games, but US is also at home as well. So I'm just starting to think that there's going to be a lot more randomness to this. And once you get through that group, which I've said US's group, there's no way they should not get through that, even if it was as the best third place finisher. And the ability of who they end up getting in the 32 and the 16, and if you get an upset here and there, do they win it? Hell no. Can they go deep? Yeah, I mean, I've ended up taking some action at 80s and 100s to win it. Some semi-final action. I think it was like 15s to 20s, and to make the quarterfinals as well. I think that matchup, that US-Mexico matchup that we'd spoken about, is very dead even. So the pricing's probably right around pick'em. I'm seeing it flip back and forth in a few different spots. I've also kind of tried to be enticed to, Canada going a little deeper than expected, but I haven't been convinced on that one. So on the US side of it, it really does seem that this is their opportunity. And I've always said I hope they go deep in this, because then it changes soccer in America. Ideally, again, this is the generation that the kids come into it and they start growing up, and you get more people heading that direction. But yes, and this is the great thing about sports betting and everything that I do. You can change your mind, and as long as you own it and accept that, you've got to do the homework. You can't just be taking these fly-by-night shots at times. But yeah, it actually looks like that they're in a lot better position, and especially versus Mexico with the way things match up, that is a genuine picket opportunity there.
Okay, Team USA is not winning this thing, but there might be an angle we can play here, because the last Team USA in '94, they won one knockout round game. They made it to the round of 8, and that was the deepest Team USA has ever gone in 1994. So now here we're hosting again in 26. Team USA to reach the quarterfinals is plus 348 at Betcris, Arizona. Do you like Team USA to make the quarters? Do you like the value on that play potentially?
So I think I got 5s or 6s. So if you're seeing 5s or 6s out there, because obviously if I'm tipping something, I'm probably a little under the market price of where it should be.
Yeah.
And there's probably opportunities to go out there and find the price find it elsewhere.
Yes.
But I will say, even on the first game, when I first looked at Paraguay and USA, that first game, I was thinking, I'm going to be on plus a half Paraguay. US was minus 120, 125. They're starting to pop up at even money, and I even saw plus 105 in that first game. So it may just be that, there is a spot where I end up on the USA in the first game. Because if they win that first game, then the square money's coming in on the second game, and you'll never get to back the USA again, and you're going to be against them every other game. But that one there as well, USA Turkey going through. I think there's spots, opportunities of picking spots where you can get involved in them, and I do see the potential where they go to 8, and maybe they even get to the Final 4.
Would you be inclined to fade if you don't like the Europeans? Are you inclined to fade some of the top teams to not make it out of their group, or is this they're going to fade when we get to the knockout round for the top European teams?
Yeah, the way this is structured, it's almost impossible not to make it out of the groups. We're having 32 out of 48 teams make it through the groups. Last World Cup, there was only 32 teams in the World Cup.
Yeah.
So it's become, the group stage has become a little less important. There's even spots where, if you look at a team like England, they're better off finishing second in their group than first. Now, are they going to, convolute some results and have that happen? Unlikely. They do have a tough game with Croatia in that group as well. But all these top teams, the only ones not making it out of the group are the worst teams in each group. And these European teams are not those teams that have to have something drastically go wrong for that. And then the 4 worst third place ones, which again, they're in groups potentially that are the softer groups of, where they end up on being third in those ones. So the top teams get through. It's just once they get there, they've now got to win an extra game than what they had to the previous World Cup. So you've got to win 32, 16, 8, 4, and then the final. And that's where I see the potential of the attrition rate, depending the time of day of games and the depth of these squads. maybe being some issue as we get deeper into that sort of that catch them in the 32, maybe in the 16, and then the 8's a bit more of a struggle. And you see, some random chances. And a team like France they were one big Mbappe injury away from, being a much, much bigger price. So, I think that's something that we go in thinking everyone's just going to be healthy all the way through the end. That ain't going to happen. Somewhere, somehow, someone's going to get injured, or a big name player gets, there's yellow cards, red cards, all these kind of things as well. So it's going to be fun.
People thought that like, because soccer has a little bit of a questionable past, that there might be some inside information about how this thing is going to go from a FIFA perspective. Do you think there's going to be any favorable whistles? Do you think Team USA is going to get the benefit?
I've said it before. I believe the USA will be getting as many legs up as they can. However, they have incorporated more video checks and refereeing in this thing. Yeah. So there is a lot more depth where if a penalty is given, it can go to the replay and then be ungiven. But on the flip side, there's a lot of penalties that are never given, handballs, these things that get unseen that will now not get unseen. So there's sort of some opportunities are there on maybe there'll be a hell of a lot more penalties, and the over penalties is sort of a shot with all this technology getting included. So, yeah, I mean, as much as the FIFA do the skullduggery behind the scenes and in the boardrooms, most of the stuff on the pitch is 100% above board. And these teams in these countries, this is, once every 4 years, and sometimes it's once in a generation opportunity to play in these games.
We'll move to basketball here in 1 second, but if I'm a casual and I have never bet soccer before, what's a good way to approach this? Like both teams to score, betting totals, betting total goals, in regulation? Like, what's a market that you like from a rec player perspective that they can target?
So the greatest things to bet in soccer are the most boring things to watch a soccer game. The value I find is 0-0, plus a half for an underdog, clean sheets, all these kind of things that 0-0s are the perfect scores for a bettor like me. So it makes it for hard watching. On the flip side on this, and Joe and I on the Prime Suspects kind of went through the Asian handicap of explaining it a little bit, because that's the closest thing to an American spread that you'll get where you're, 50-50 close to pick 'em, and understanding that, if it says plus or minus a quarter, you're getting half your stake at 0 and half your stake at 0.5, whether it's the plus or minus. So you kind of spread your bet where you have an opportunity to push one side, lose one side, push one side, win one side, and things like that. But yeah, correct scores are some good value and good fun to watch. Yeah, it's a tough sport. I mean, it's, as I said, you got to anticipating the goals. I'm generally not a football watcher, but I'll show up for the World Cups and the Euros and a bit of Champions League these days. But yeah, usually I'm sitting there biting my nails, hoping that it's, 0-0 after 80 minutes still, and then maybe hedging my way out of a position. But you'll find that the group stages will be open and free flowing. The knockout stages will be tight and very few goals scored per se. So I will say one thing is probably worthwhile watching the first few days, not even having a bet, getting a feel for it, and then diving in. This is a long 6 weeks. This is 104 games. Don't blow your load on the first game. Like, I mean, I've had those things in the past. College football weekends, and I'm, week 1 and I go 10-30, and I'm like discouraged for the rest of the season. This is a long tournament. Keep your powder dry and hang in there.
Yeah, I think also from an American bettor perspective, the three-way market is confusing because we're used to wins and losses, right? Once you introduce that third market, the draw, you introduce that, it changes the odds. So like my advice would be careful what market you're betting if you aren't used to it, right? Because the three-way changes things.
For multiple reasons. Understand that when it says 90 minutes, it means 90 minutes plus a little bit of injury time at the end. When you get to the next round, 90 minutes means the 90 minutes regulation time, not the extra time, not the penalties and all that stuff. So there is a key point to understanding that aspect of it. But I hate the draw. I hate three-way market. I'm always looking for two-way markets. And if anything, the draw is where the actual value is in these betting as well. Unfortunately, again, you've either got to hope for 0-0, or if someone scores, then you got to hope the other team scores next to make it 1-1, and then that becomes a game in itself. But generally, the draws are often the value in some of these spots. But yeah, I mean, I'm going back 30 years when I first started betting, and I hated soccer because generally it was only the three-way market available. You didn't have totals, you didn't have spreads, you didn't have both teams to score and all that stuff. And I used to just hate the draw. But now I love the draw because every time there's a draw, bookmakers usually win because no one wants to back the draw.
Nope.
So I'm cheering for 104 draws, and we'll have a great tournament.
All right, it's Wednesday. It starts tomorrow. I just need a prediction. We won't hold you to it, but just who wins this thing starting tomorrow?
I'm going Germany, 15-1. Get some value. I'd been trying to talk myself into Norway and some of these teams at 35s and 40s, but I think genuine, decent price. Germany at 15s, Brazil at 10s. You can't go wrong. You'll get a sweat deep into the tournament.
All right. Germany to come with a W. Tonight, game number 4, the NBA Finals. Obviously, this is a massive event. Betting right before the World Cup betting will begin tomorrow. As of what I've seen online, and tell me if you guys are seeing it the same, that the Nick money has been coming in fast and furious all morning. Is it all in New York, or are we seeing some pro money come back on the Spurs for game 4?
Fast and furious since the line went up 5 minutes after game 3. We are currently at about 86% of the money on the Knicks, 100% of the master money at the spread. On the money line, we are 82% of the money on the Knicks and 91% of the master money on the Knicks there. So I've said this, we needed the Knicks for the series. We're going to need the Spurs in tonight's game. So what the hell, let's go 7 and let's try and make some more money out of this and forget about the series result because, we'll make more than that on the game. So,
I mean, are you looking at this as, how do you see the game? Is it the Knicks tonight? Is this the bounce back spot? I mean, obviously 100% of the master money being on one side. Is that surprising?
No, it just kind of emphasizes that we've had 3 away team wins in a row. I expected 100% the rec money was going to come in saying definitely one home team has to win.
Yeah.
The fact that the pro money is coming in like it is, it kind of just gives it, Knicks had multiple opportunities to steal that game 3 and go up 3-0. Spurs needed to throw everything they had at it to stay alive. And it just feels like the Knicks will just run over this one and win by a big margin at home for game 4. But as I said, as good as that will be for the series and the finals and whatnot, we're going to need the Spurs for a decent amount tonight. So, hell, why not go 7 and just tie it up and keep on going?
How has the in-game wagering gone in the first 3 games? Are you seeing heavy volume?
Yeah, heavy volume. Bettors are getting a little smarter. They're seeing these games swing, and by game 2, though, team goes down big, they jump on that team. We had a few deep Polish middles where it was, ended up the other night at 4 was okay, 5, 6 would have been great. But yeah, there's a lot of been this back and forth of the swings, and even the players have come out and said, you understand teams are going to go on runs. You've just got to stay steady and then wait for your run. And that's kind of been one of the biggest struggles is when a favorite wins small, usually on the live betting, you lose. You really need the underdog to win or the favorite just to keep blowing out teams because you're getting bettors really starting to play that middle and back and forth of momentum.
Yeah, that's what I did. I did that in game 3. I got +3, +4 on both sides, and actually 4.5, and it landed 4, so it was perfect. So it was right where I wanted it to be to get on both sides to cash both bets. In terms of where you guys are, I think what's interesting about watching these games is because, one, obviously live betting comes in, but the totals of these games, game 1, game 2, both went under. Game 3 went over. I like the over tonight, but I feel like people are betting the under tonight in this, thinking, okay, it's going to be a Nick win like it was in game 1 and game 2, and that was an underplay for the Knicks. Are you seeing a correlation? Are we looking at unders and Nick money, or we got some overplays coming in?
No, it's balanced. I mean, we're at about 57% of the money on the over. The Masters well balanced and not a lot of action in that sense. So it seems like they're haven't quite decided where this game is going. And yeah, if that was the case for the first two, we're seeing heavy Nick money, but we're not seeing the under money.
Okay, I like the over tonight. We'll see what happens. I don't know who do you like? Do you have a side tonight? Do you like any? I mean, it's not a data play because the Masters are all on the Knicks.
Everyone's on the same side. I mean, we're going to need the Spurs, so I'm going to have to cheer the Spurs. But I had a feeling after Game 3 that Knicks were just going to come out and put a stomp on this Game 4 one. But yeah, it's a bit hard when people are betting it. I don't get to make the decision. I've just got to decide based on where the money is, who I'm cheering for.
Yeah, you're pulling for the Spurs. I'm with you. I'm pulling for the Spurs as well, but I think probably we're going to wind up seeing a Knick victory coming up here for tonight. My friend, thank you for the time. Travel safe to Costa Rica. World Cup's here. Should be a lot of fun. Let's get into it next week.
All right. Cheers. Thanks.
That is Adam Bjorn joining us here on Pushing the Odds live from Fort Lauderdale, where I am flying to on Saturday. So I'll be going right into that. I tried to figure that out. I was like, let's get in there. And I was like, shoot, it couldn't happen. So I'll be in Florida next week. A reminder on that next week, the show will air at 1 p.m. Eastern time, but it will be on like the YouTube version of tape delay. I won't be live, but you guys will be watching it live. The chat will be live. It just won't be me. It will be a recording of me. It's called Premiere on YouTube. It doesn't change on Sports Grid. It's all going to be the same, replayed at 1 a.m. Eastern time, 10 p.m. Pacific time on Sports Grid. So nothing changes on the Sports Grid side, just from the YouTube side and the X live show side. That's what will be coming up here for us next week. So live, I'll be in Florida. So the show will tape in the morning. It'll air at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And so for you guys on the East Coast, it's nothing, or anyone really, no change difference. 1 p.m. debuting of Pushing the Odds next week coming up here. Let's talk about what happened last night, because the Golden Knights, yikes, another tough night for Carter Hart. So what happened? Well, that should be the last night. Sorry, not this weekend, but last night on this. The Stanley Cup is now tied at 2 games apiece. Carolina comes into Vegas and wins Game 4, 5-3, sending this series back to Raleigh, all knotted up at 2. The problem for the Golden Knights is that they went down 2-0 so quickly in that game. They scored, made it 2-1 after 1. And I really thought that was going to be a low-scoring game. I bet under 6. It wound up 5-3. But Carter Hart gave up 2 goals really fast in the first period, and then he put his team into a gigantic hole. The Golden Knights climbed out of it. They tied the game at 3, and then they scored the go-ahead goal, which got pulled off the board. And once that goal got pulled off the board, another goal for Vegas getting pulled off the board, you then had a goal and an open net, and the goal for Stahl was ridiculous. I mean, he's falling to the ice. He's just wailing at the puck. It flutters up into the air and finds its way to the back of the net. This series has had some of the most flukiest goals that you can remember. And how Vegas won Game 3, Carolina wins Game 4. What happens going forward? Well, Bussy did play, and yet Bussy was giving up goals as much as Anderson was. So my guess is they will go back to Anderson for Game 5, because there wasn't a big advantage to playing Brandon Bussy in game number 4. Now, he won the game 5-3, but he still gave up 3 goals. The number for Carter Hart are starting to get scary for the Golden Knights, and there's a lot of hatred in the market for Carter Hart for everything that happened with the sexual assault trial, the Philadelphia situation with him leaving the Flyers, like all of there's just a lot of bad blood. But this is just like a taste of what is online. Carter Hart is making Stanley Cup history. Under the brightest lights, he's breaking multiple records. He set a record for allowing 4 or more goals for a 4th straight game to start a Stanley Cup final. That's true, and that's crazy. In Game 3, he let in 3 goals in 39 seconds to set the record for the fastest 3 goals against in playoff history. That's true. In doing so, he set another record. He became the first NHL goalie in the history of the final to allow 3 consecutive goals on 3 consecutive shots in back-to-back games. That's true. If his legacy isn't tainted by his hockey trial, which it is, it will be tainted by his poor performance. We heard legends of his performance anxiety, but he is coming up as small as ever. I think the performance anxiety question is real for Carter Hart. There's no other way to describe why the guy can be a brick wall one period and then can't stop anything the next. And it's been the third period. The first period hasn't been good either. It wasn't great for certain games against Colorado, but in this series, it's been the third period where he just hasn't been good. They were lucky to win game 3. They're up 4-0. He gave up 4 goals in the third period. They won the game 5-4. 4 goals in the third period. Last night, it's 3-3. He gives up, wasn't his fault, but he still gives up that goal. And Vegas goes down 4-3, open net. It's 5-3. And Carolina wins. In game 1, he wasn't good in game 1. We talked about it at length. So there is starting to be this question about what Carter Hart is for the Golden Knights. And do they have to score 5 goals a game to win in this series? That's not how Carolina wants to play, but it's how Carolina has been forced to play. I mean, look at these finals. We're talking 5-6 goals to win each game here in the finals. So if you're not scoring 5, you're not winning. Now, Vegas can play like that, and they're okay with playing like that, but they generally don't want to have to play like that. And you got a best of 3 now where Carolina has home ice. Home ice hasn't been great in these playoffs, but if we go 7, which we probably are, because the winner of game 5 probably loses game 6, and we're going 7 in Carolina, which goaltender is going to be up to the task of playing in a game 7 of the Stanley Cup final? I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this whole thing goes in game 5. Because if Vegas can win game 5 and then come back to Vegas in game 6, they can end the thing in 6. I don't think Vegas loses game 6 at home, regardless. So if they lose game 5, I think Vegas wins game 6. If Vegas wins game 5, they win game 6. So I would lean towards betting on Vegas to win the series and then bet Carolina in game 7. But Carter Hart stops me from doing that. He concerns me just because the way he's playing right now, it doesn't feel like you can trust him. And that's the real big fear. From a Carolina perspective, they keep on blowing leads. Like Carolina's got the concern of they can't hold a lead against Vegas. And that's got to be extraordinarily worrisome for Rod Brind'Amour, because that's how they play. They get a lead and they just boa constrict you and they stop your offensive opportunities. That's what they did to Montreal and everybody else in the East. They can't do that to Vegas. Vegas has too many weapons that they get out from these deficits consistently. Multiple goal deficits consistently. Vegas is coming back, and it doesn't matter how many goals it is. Vegas finds a way. That would be my concern if I was Carolina, because no matter how many goal lead I have, it doesn't feel safe with either goaltender. With Anderson or Bussy, it doesn't seem safe. So that's why I would lean towards taking Vegas and then bet Carolina for a game 7. But I do think this thing goes 7. I do think this is going to be a game 7 in the Stanley Cup, which will be bonkers, which is exactly what the NHL dreams of, is a game 7 in Carolina for the Cup final. For everybody that's talked about a warm weather Cup final between 2 teams in smaller markets in Vegas and Raleigh, the numbers have been bonkers. 5 million watching. The country is paying attention to the Stanley Cup final because the hockey's been so good. This Cup final has been ridiculous. It's making a case for the greatest Stanley Cup final of all time, and we're only 4 games in. If this thing goes 7, and it's a back-and-forth battle in the next 3 games, like we've seen in the first 4, it's going to be in the conversation for the greatest Stanley Cup final we've ever seen. The hockey's been so good. It's been so fun to watch these 2 teams. Let's talk about game 4 tonight. What has to happen for the Knicks to win and the Spurs to win? Let's jump down the rabbit hole. all that Nick money coming in, you could find some pretty nice prices on Rabbit right now if you want to go ahead and back the Spurs. To do so, you're going to download the app in the Google Play or Apple Play Store. Use the code Rabbit5 when you sign up to get 5 free Rabbit Cash. You set the market, you set the lines, you set the odds, and no more awkward Venmos. You're playing against a real person. Download the app, Google Play, Apple Store for free today, and check out Rabbit. I think all of the Nick money is probably correct. I mean, it's probably the right side to back the Knicks. I'm not doing it. I can't bring myself to do it because I think the Spurs are live. I really do. I want to bet it in game. To me, this is an in-game opportunity. I don't want to lay anything pre-flop. I want in-game. I want to see how many points on the Spurs can I get? Can I get 6? Can I get 7? And then on the other side, can I get 3 or 4 on the Knicks? Can I swing it around? Because in the first quarter, the Spurs have been really good. The Knicks have been really good in the fourth quarter, and they weren't so good in the fourth quarter of game 3. But the thought is they're going to be really good in the fourth quarter of game 4. And that's why everyone's betting on the Knicks. I see far more value in betting the total. I think we're going over 216 tonight. I know there's a lot of people who are betting the under because if the Knicks win, the game goes under because defensively they're going to stop Wemby. And to me, that really is what this comes down to. Can Wemby do what he did in game number 3? Can he repeat it in game number 4? Remember, we put this up. He scored 32 points in game 3. 11 of 18 shooting, 2 of 4 from behind the arc, and Cat got dominated. 11 points in the game, no points in the fourth quarter for Karl-Anthony Towns. You have to think he's going to be heavily more involved in the game coming up tonight in game 4. Well, if the Spurs are going to win, they've got to duplicate what they did in game 3. We've talked about the road teams. No road team has won the first 4 games of an NBA Finals in the history of the NBA. Game 3, Wemby went 6 for 10 for 14 points when he was guarded by Karl-Anthony Towns. But more importantly, he went 4 for 4 on lobs. The Spurs remembered they had a 7'4" center that can't be stopped above the rim, and they threw the ball up to Wemby. That did not happen in game 1 or game 2. In fact, in game 1, the average distance of shot for Wembanyama was the longest of the playoffs. He kept on getting pushed further and further back. He did change that in game 2, but he really changed that in game 3. His first 3 buckets of game 3 were in the paint. That has to happen here tonight. If the Spurs can get Wemby involved, if the Spurs can get Wemby touches in the paint and run their offense through him, that's going to be a huge factor. They must get to the rim with Wembanyama. Again, I'm in-gaming this. I don't know who wins. I don't know where we are. What I do know, what I am into, is now taking a look at what has happened for the total. The Knicks play faster at home than they do on the road. But it's more than that to me because it's the road performance of the Spurs against the Thunder. All 4 games that were on the road at Oklahoma City, all 4 games went over, significantly went over. Game 3 went significantly over in the NBA Finals. I think tonight we're going over. I think we're getting offense. I think we're getting free throws. I think the referees are going to be blowing whistles like crazy. And I mean like crazy. I think we're getting a ton of free throws for both teams tonight. There's been so much intensity around what Wembanyama did to Jalen Brunson. Every crybaby Knick fan has been calling into radio and talking publicly, and every writer covering the Knicks have been saying he should have been ejected. It should have been a flagrant 1. I mean, like, these people are clearly showing their age because they don't remember the 90s or the 80s when that was commonplace in the NBA and we all loved it. What made the NBA great? Whistles being put in pockets when it came to the finals. Don't let the referees get involved. Yes, it should be physical. Yes, it should be a survival of the fittest. And when a 7'4" guy is going up against a 6'2" guy, yeah, he should be throwing him around like a rag doll. Absolutely. And Brunson's a flopper. Okay. He's a flopper. And I don't blame Brunson. Sorry, I don't blame Wemby for being pissed off at Brunson. For if you breathe on the guy, he jumps 5 rows into the stands. I mean, when Castle ran into him and he fell on his back, he acted like he got shot. I mean, soccer guys are like, oh yeah, good play. Like the NBA with SGA and Jalen Brunson and all these guards, I'm glad the referees aren't calling these things. I'm glad the referees are like, yeah, I'm not getting baited into blowing the whistle on these plays. You guys flop like crazy. LeBron brought this in. Okay, that's how it first started with LeBron. It then became now SGA, and now it's being manifested with Jalen Brunson. So I'm okay with Wembanyama throwing around and actually physically throwing Brunson around, because he gets so many calls based upon when he's not being thrown around or he's not getting hit. The Spurs hitting tonight should be exactly what they do. Hit the Knicks, make the referees blow the whistle, put them in a difficult spot, foul everybody. And I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. Is Wemby dirty? I don't care if Wemby's dirty. I don't care. It's about winning championships. This is about winning the title. Getting a label thrown at you saying you're a dirty player, who cares? I mean, Knick fans, have you seen the ticket prices for tonight? They've cratered. Everybody showed up to game 3 thinking it was going to be a coronation. Now in game 4, there's some real butt clenching going on and a bunch of sphincters getting real tight in New York. No pressure on the Spurs tonight. None. Just go play your game. Get Wemby involved. Be physical. You need Castle to play the way he played. You need Fox to hit more. Fox can't shoot 29% again. You need Fox. Can't be 4 or 14. You need that guy to be a productive 50% shooter tonight. I think he will. I don't know. I know we're all talking Nick. Never before have we seen 4 teams go on the road and win all 4 games. I get all that. I cannot get to the window. I couldn't get to the window for Knicks in game 3. I couldn't get to the window for the Spurs in game 3. Same thing. I can't get to the window pregame for either one of these teams. I bet the over in game 3. I'm betting the over here in game number 4. Time for the pro football news of the day, being presented by our friends at Vegas Football Proxy. I have not heard from Tom yet, so Tom's still in China. Once Tom is back from China, we will then be able to talk to him about everything happening with the contests for Circa Million, Circa Survivor, the Grandissimo, the Westgate Super Contest. You guys can book your appointments when you're coming to Vegas to sign up with Tom. VegasFootballProxy.com. Experienced. This is a high integrity individual who is trusted by hundreds of people every year to put their picks in accurately and to have an open line of communication between you, the customer, and him, the proxy, to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident with your entries this coming football season. The official proxy service of Pushing the Odds, VegasFootballProxy.com. Go check out Tom on his website. Make the appointment when you come to Vegas to sign up for Tom to be your proxy this year for the 2026 Circa Million, Survivor, Grandissimo, or the Westgate Super Contests. This story is weird. It's here in Vegas. So yesterday, mandatory minicamp opened up here in Vegas for the Raiders. And afterwards, Kirk Cousins was asked about his relationship with Fernando Mendoza, the number 1 pick in the draft. And he was asked about mentoring Mendoza. His answer was a little bit weird. He said about the quarterbacks in the room, they're pretty good players, pretty experienced, and I'm learning a lot from them too and asking questions to them. Nobody's leading more than someone else. I think we're all working a working force together, helping each other, giving feedback, giving perspective, and giving another set of eyes. Well, you have to remember that Mendoza was drafted to be the number 1 quarterback at some point in time for the Raiders. But they brought in Kirk Cousins because he has played over 100 games in the system that's going to be run by the new head coach here in Vegas. And Clint Kubiak's offense is quarterback friendly, passer friendly, but somewhat complicated. It's weird to see like Kyler Murray saying, I'm not mentoring JJ McCarthy, and JJ McCarthy saying, I don't need a mentor essentially for Mendoza. It's like, guys, this is why you're here. Like you're being brought in because you're veterans at the end of your career, and you don't like that. You don't like that label. You want to act like you're still playing the position at a high level, even though we know that you're not. But you don't like that. You don't like that when people look at you and say you're the grandpa needing to teach the younglings how to play the position. Kirk Cousins is going to be the starting quarterback for the Raiders game 1. Kirk Cousins could play the entire year for the Raiders. In fact, I think it would be a good idea for the Raiders to have Kirk Cousins as the starting quarterback throughout the entire year and let Mendoza sit for an entire year, because I don't think Mendoza's ready. I said that going in. I would have traded the pick. I'm not the biggest of Mendoza guys. I just think he needs a lot for the NFL. I think in college he was great. I don't know if that translates in the NFL, and I'm not loving that it translates quickly into the NFL. I think he needs some time to get some seasoning, to learn the offense, to watch the games in real game speed, and then take over eventually. The Patriots didn't play Drake May until the middle part of the year, in year number 1. That seems to be like the typical now, where you sit 5 or 6 games and then you take over. But Kirk Cousins still can play the position at a very high level. And if he's healthy, I think Kirk Cousins should play. But I also don't think he should run away from the idea as to why he's here. He's here to play the position temporarily until Mendoza is ready to go. And so running away from that and saying, I don't want to talk about that. I'm not here to talk about that. We're all here. Me, friend, with Mendoza and Cousins and O'Connell, we're all here together trying to learn, right? We're all trying to get each other. I get the whole like team thing, but nah, man, come on, Kirk. Like you're here to coach. You're here to mentor. You're here to be a model. You're here to teach. That's why you've been brought to Vegas. You should embrace that and understand that, because you know the system and you know Kubiak and you know the terminology and you know the way this game's supposed to be played under Clint Kubiak. That's why you're here. To run away from it makes me feel like, what's going to happen if Kirk Cousins is named the starter and Mendoza is sitting there behind him trying to learn? Would Cousins help him to understand what he's seeing? Is Cousins willing to mentor the young kid, or is he saying, kind of like what JJ McCarthy is dealing with Kyler Murray, I'm here to take your job. For as long as I can keep you at bay, I'm going to play the position. You got to beat me out, and I don't think you can beat me out. So I'm going to be the quarterback until you're ready, which might not be for a while. Interesting stuff here in Vegas. We have news of the industry and just the picks coming up in bonus time. My thanks to Adam Bjorn in Betcris, Arizona, for coming in for a World Cup soccer preview. That was fun. If you missed any part of that, you can go to our YouTube channel at Opening Line Media. The full breakdown for the World Cup will be up at some point after the show is over. If you're live, don't move. Replay on Sports Grid TV. Thank you for being here. We're back tomorrow, 1 a.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern time, 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific time for tomorrow's show on Thursday. Newbie will join us tomorrow to preview the games themselves for the first day of the World Cup on our pitch report. But for you guys live, bonus time starts now. I got to say this though. I mean, we're in a really fun pattern, and it's Wednesday, right? So NBA Finals tonight. We then will get into the Stanley Cup is Friday, right? That's the next. That's when we get to. Hold on a second. No, it's tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow's Game 5. Sunday, there's the extra day. Sunday is Game 6. So potentially, the Stanley Cup will end on Sunday. If we go 7. Oh, how about that? Game 7 is not till Wednesday. Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday for the Stanley Cup. Interesting. I think there's a good, if Vegas wins Thursday, Vegas wins on Sunday. I think Vegas wins on Sunday anyway. And so if Carolina wins game 5, Vegas wins game 6, and then we're going 7 on Wednesday for the Stanley Cup. So maybe we have one game next week. That's a big maybe. For the NBA, we're playing Wednesday, Saturday, and then game 7 would be Tuesday in New York. If we need to do that. So game 4 tonight, game 5, game 6. Well, then was that next? Then Saturday? Okay. So it'd be, so it's Saturday. So we play tonight on Wednesday, then we play Saturday, then we play Tuesday, and then game 7 would be Friday. Okay. So we're going at least 6. We know that. So, well, I guess we could go 5. I guess we could go 5, right? Sorry, we could go 5. But if we win tonight, it's 2-2. If the Spurs win tonight, it's 2-2 or 3-1. So I guess technically it could be over on Saturday. So both could end this weekend. Okay. So my point is, we've been in a really fun pattern for games that all might end this weekend. And if it ends this weekend, next week, really, it's going to be a lot of the World Cup. It's baseball, it's World Cup, and we're officially into the summertime months for the NFL. We will start our teams of the day breakdowns. We will start that coming up after the July 4th holiday. And so we'll come back from July 4th, and then we'll get into those games. In those interviews, we'll do a different team every day in the NFL. And we'll try to bring on different reporters and beat writers and bloggers and people that cover those teams to preview those teams. But like, that's when we get like really into like the summertime months, right? Before we get to the opening of training camps at the end of July, and then college football gets going really in the middle of August. Live shows happening with Bet Bash at the beginning of August, and then the Ultimate Football Contest weekend at Circa at the end of August. So that's going to get really into the summertime. But we've been able to keep that away because of how good the NBA Finals and how good the Stanley Cup Finals have been. And this has been I've been talking to people about this for the last week or so, of like, this feels so good to have this level of content to talk about, to watch, to bet. We've had and it's all the way here to the 10th of June. I mean, we're right here. The East Coast kids get out of school on Friday of this week. And so their summertime begins. And that's when the real summertime starts and everyone really scatters and things do change a lot. Like, that's the unofficial start to the summertime, is when the East Coast kids get out. The West Coast kids have been out for almost a month now from school. So it's a very interesting situation right now because of these two finals and how good they have been, and people are watching and paying attention. I'm not going to be critical. It's been awesome. It's been absolutely awesome. I want both these series to go 7. So I'm pulling for the Spurs tonight because I want the game to go. I want that series to keep going. I want to have more games to break down and talk about coming up next week, because it's been super, super fun. Let's talk news of the industry, because another clickbait story for you. I don't want to spend tons of time on this story, but this is wild. So our friends at InGame and Jeff Edelstein pointed this out. There was a study that came out yesterday where sports betting is being blamed as a causation for divorce. The research claims that legal betting is linked to higher divorce rates. But when you look under the hood, there are some real flaws with that approach. As Jeff pointed out, let's start here. In states that legalized sports betting, divorce went down after legalization, not up. So how do you get betting causes divorce out of divorce went down? Researchers argue divorce in betting states should have dropped even faster because it dropped faster in the states they used for comparison. The whole study is the gap between fell a little and fell a lot. when I tell you guys that sports gambling is being used to drive these studies, the clickbait nature of it all, I mean, it is remarkable when you stop and realize how ridiculous when it comes to sports gambling, every story is negative. It's never positive. And I'm not saying there is some great positive story with sports gambling, but it does bring eyeballs when you put up a study like that or a headline like that that says sports gambling causes divorce, because it reinforces all the negative thoughts that those have around sports gambling. This is the type of story that gets sent around group chats. Oh, did you see this? This is why Jim and Janie got divorced. Jim was betting. Jim was a gambler. Oh, of course. See, sports gambling leads to divorce. Yeah, but when you actually go and dig down deep, it's actually complete bullshit. It's just nonsense. It's not true at all. Not even close to being true. So we don't need to go deep into it. It's just, if you want to go read the study, you can go read the study. You can go ingame.com for the article that Jeff wrote. But it's just another example of what I'm talking about as to this is what is in the ecosystem. This is what's in the water right now around sports gambling. Anything that's getting publicized, anything that's getting paid or funded, it's never looking for the positive. It's always trying to reinforce the negative, and thus the negative will then be put up on screen for some TED talk with someone is up there going like, see, study done by so-and-so showing that the divorce rate of men and women in states that legalize, this is what happens. Click, click, click. But when you start to read the research and read the information, you're like, yeah, but this is bullshit. Like, what are you talking about? This didn't actually happen. Yeah, but it's going to happen. Well, why? Because it happened in other states. So other states have had upticks in legalized in gambling or in divorce. So gambling is going to be the reason why. I mean, that's wild stuff. Like, that is absolute wild stuff when you stop and think about all that. We have to try to push back on this at some point in time. I'm not saying there's massive positive economic and socioeconomic impact to sports gambling being legalized outside of tax revenue being generated, but the amount of negativity that's being allowed to be put out there in the media is quite remarkable at every turn. And most of it's not true on top of that. Let's make some bets. Just the Picks being brought to you by the Betting Pros Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Good info tonight from the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet on Game 4 of the NBA. You can go to bettingpros.com/NBA props, or you can go download the Betting Pros app and search the Betting Pros Prop Bet Cheat Sheet on the app. As I mentioned, we're going over 216.5 for the Spurs and the Knicks. This is counter where the money is going. Seen a lot of money on the under. People think Knicks win. Knicks, it goes under like it did in Game 1. In Game 2, I'm not totally against that, but I am betting against that. I get the correlation. I get the play. I'm just going to bet it because the Spurs have been an over machine on the road here in the Western Conference and in the NBA Finals. We're talking 5 straight games in which the over is hit with the Spurs on the road. We're going over 216.5 for the Spurs and the Knicks. In baseball, it hit yesterday on my number. It didn't hit the closing number. The closing number was 13. The game fell 12. So I had over 11.5. It was a 7-5 final for the A's over the Brewers. So I cashed, but the public, you guys who bet it late, you didn't. It went under. So technically it's 1-1, but I think this game flies over here with the Brewers and the A's. It's the third and final game. We have openers for both teams pitching here in this game tonight. Brandon Sproat is pitching with his 6.17 ERA for the Brewers. Jack Perkins is pitching for the A's in his 6.19 ERA. Yeah, we're getting a lot of offense here in this game. I'm going over 14.5. The weather's gorgeous here in Vegas today. The Summerlin ballpark, the Las Vegas ballpark, is a mile from where I'm sitting. Home runs, home runs, home runs. The A's have hit a bazillion home runs in this 2-game series. They're going to hit even more coming up tonight. I lean towards the Brewers to win the game, to win the series, but I think the over is the better play on this. I'm taking Chris Sale and the Braves to bounce back after getting walked off by the White Sox yesterday. Chris Sale coming back here. He's been very good on the road. He is facing the, quote, ace of the White Sox, but it's a good price on the Braves. I like them to bounce back here and get a W. I like the Nats coming up here for today. The Nats are even money. The guy they've got pitching has won 8 of 10. Hold on, let me give you the actual. That game starts, by the way, in like an hour. So if you want the Nats on the road at San Francisco, it's a 12:45 start time for that game. But they are throwing Foster Griffin, lefty, 7-2, 3.63 ERA. The team has won 4 straight games started by Foster Griffin. They won 4 of 6, 5 of the last 7. But if you go back all the way to the start of the season, back on the 5th of April, the team has lost 3 times in games started by Foster Griffin of the Nats. And we get plus money, even money on this, even plus money at certain books on this. Robbie Ray on the other side at home. Robbie Ray's been much better than on the road. 2.78 ERA, a 3-1 record for him, but overall he's 4-6 with a 4.12 ERA. The Giants have won 3 straight games started by Robbie Ray, however, but I'm going to take the even money shot on the Nats here today for Major League Baseball. Let's make a prop bet for tonight. We hit it yesterday. All right, prop bet of the day. We're 1-1 on the prop bet of the day here for the week. Missed it on Monday, hit it on Tuesday. I'm going back to the prop that we missed on Monday. De'Aaron Fox over 20.5 points and assists. He shot the basketball so poorly, 29%, and yet we got hooked. We end up he scored 12 points, 8 assists. He got to 20. We got hooked in game 3. If he shoots just a little bit better, and he shot poorly in game 1, shot great in game 2, poorly in game 3, let's shoot great in game 4. If he went 0 for 2 from behind the 3-point line, if he hits 1-3 tonight, I think we're going over this number. I'm going to go right back to it. Same price, same number, 20.5, De'Aaron Fox points and assists. Some people told me that number is down to 19.5 at certain books. That's great. I think you get even a better number coming up on that. So 20.5 over 19.5. De'Aaron Fox coming up here for tonight. I like De'Aaron Fox to have a big game for the San Antonio Spurs. Prop bet of the day, De'Aaron Fox over 19.5 points and assists. Favorite thing about today. Favorite thing about today is that we are finally here. The World Cup is finally here. We've been talking about this for a really long time. I've been talking to Adam Bjorn about the World Cup since last August. We had our first meeting when we sat down and had a conversation about what 2026 was going to look like from a sports gambling perspective and just how perfect this year could be if things fell right. And so far, so good. I mean, the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals, both have been awesome to watch, and the audiences are paying attention. The people are betting it heavily. That's taking us directly to the start of the World Cup. And on Friday, Team USA gets started in the World Cup. We have a 6-week run for the World Cup, and then we go right into training camps for the NFL. We go right into the NFL season. August is sort of your tune-up month, and then we get to September, and we're right back into college and pro football. So, I mean, the year is shaping up exactly how we thought it could. If everything fell right, how much fun it could be. And so far, so good. 2026 has been absolutely awesome. And it is a lot of fun right now to be involved in the sports gambling and sports media space. There's just a lot of things to talk about. There's a lot of content. There's a lot of intrigue. The public is paying attention. The public's betting. You guys are loving it in the chat. I just think it's cool. Every night there's something on to watch this on a high level. It's just a really nice routine that we're in at the moment from a betting perspective and an audience perspective. And normally the month of June is just dead and boring. And there's been tons of excitement and tons of interest. And we start the World Cup coming up tomorrow with Mexico's first game of the World Cup. So a lot of fun, a lot of really fun. Favorite thing about today is that it's really cool. Right now, this is really fun from a June perspective when normally we're struggling and like, oh God, get me to September, right? How often have you heard me over the years say that? Just get me to September. Nope. We're here in a big way. So Really excited to see how that's all going to play out coming up. My thanks to Adam Bjorn for being a part of the program. You guys in the chat, thank you for being here, Brigade. We're back tomorrow. Newbie starts the pitch report for us as we'll start previewing, breaking down, and betting on the World Cup, which starts tomorrow in Mexico City. Looking forward to seeing you guys back tomorrow for a 1 p.m. Eastern time start for Pushing the Odds with Matt Peralt, being brought to you by Betcris Arizona.